afternoon and welcome back to Japan. It is the day that felt like it would never come. Today we may put our first climbers forward for Olympic selection depending on how the next couple of hours goes. We are live in Hachioji on the western edge of Japan. Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley here to talk you through the final component of this women's combined qualifiers. We've got 20 women taking part and they will be competing on what looks like a very traditional, thoroughly enjoyable to climb lead route over on the right hand side of our lead wall here in the arena. Fans of all ages watching on. And Mike, what a big day this could be for climbing. We could potentially be putting forward people to the Olympic selectors today. Yeah, absolutely. Massive moment in the history of competition climbing and a massive route in front of them. 42 moves in the women's competition that we're about to see. 42 basically crimps. 42 moves in a row that are very, very endurance based. Starts on the far right hand side of the wall there. You can see it, all the collection of red in the middle of the wall is just whole stuff that's going to be used in the men's competition later tomorrow, so that won't come into play whatsoever. The women's route starts down on the right hand side, bit of a move off the floor, straight into some pinchy, crimpy kind of section, the first 3 or 4 quick draws, and basically the style starts quite tricky and remains that all the way through, but there's no particularly interesting or special moves out there. There's no 360s, no crazy dynos. It's just really, really endurance based climbing. Like I said, 42 moves. Chance to hug that big steering wheel at the top of the wall before clipping the lower off just round to the right. Earlier on I said we could send climbers for Olympic selection, and you might be thinking, but you're surely selecting 8 climbers to go through to the final and only 7 of them can go forward to Olympic selection. But what you have to remember is that each country can only have 2 climbers per gender. Only 2 women from each country can go to the Olympics. So if, for example, Japan were to take 3 women into Tuesday's final, remember of course that the women's combined final will be on Tuesday, that would mean that all 5 of the other non-Japanese climbers in that final 8 could go through, would be put forward for Olympic selection, because only 2 of the 3 Japanese climbers could go. So, it may well be the case, sorry to interrupt you, but it may well be the case, depending on the nationality of people, that you might even finish 8th, you might even finish 9th, you might not even make it to the combined final next on Tuesday and still be put forward for Olympic selection, depending on the nationality of people who do make it into the final. And here's how they'll lead up. The starting order will be as it has been all day. In the finals, the starting order changes for every discipline. But here in the qualifying round, the starting order remains the same. So Vita Lukan, as she has done all day in the previous 2 disciplines, will go first on the lead wall. She'll be followed out by Brooke Raboutou, Petra Klingler, Jessie Pilz, Julia Chanourdie, Nanako Kura, Alannah Yip, Anouck Jaubert, Mori, Lucka Rakovec, Niu, Alexandra Miroslav, Evgenia Kazbekova, Chaeyun Seo, Krampl, Miho Nonaka, Futaba Ito, Shauna Coxsey, Akiyo Noguchi, and Janja Garnbret. So that is how they line up. They are gunning for a place in the top 8 for the final, which will take place after a rest day tomorrow on Tuesday. But as I say, depending on the nationality of that top 8, we may say that 5 of them or more are already through for Olympic selection. You might not even finish in the top 8 and still get put forward for Olympic selection. So much to play for, and of course a small matter of winning the Combined World Championship as well. As we said, that's the route they'll be climbing on. The climbers will have observation of the route, 6 minutes to look at it. And then, as ever, in a lead final, they have 40 seconds to look at the route individually. This will run effectively like a lead semi-final. The one thing to bear in mind is, obviously, we don't have count back to previous rounds here. So if climbers are tied, they will be separated on time. Time will be the first way of separating them, whereas normally we use count back to previous rounds wherever possible. It will come down to time, so we're going to keep an even closer eye than normal on the clock. And there's a close-up of some of the holes that the climbers will be dealing with. That's 4 or 5 moves in, and then higher up, this is right on the head wall. 3 big dishes to welcome the climbers onto the head wall. And as Mike said, our chief route setter Adam Pustelnik, as we see the climbers come onto the stage for observation, our chief lead route setter Adam Pustelnik was telling us there's no particular cruxes. He doesn't think there's any really good rest. There's a few places where you might pause and shake out one hand, but there's no real rest. And it's more or less continuous. Once you get 3 moves in, the difficulty stays pretty much consistent until the last half a dozen moves on the head wall. So it's just how many of those moves can you do? Can you read it right? Can you be efficient? Can you find the right method?
Yeah, this observation period here will be really good for the climbers, I think, because sometimes with these routes, in that 6 minutes, you really kind of can't quite get to grips with certain sections of the routes, especially when there's big sort of clusters of large volumes. But here it's relatively crimpy, like we said before. It's relatively basic to read. Like I said, it's 42 moves, of which most of it will be quite familiar to the athletes when they step on the wall. First move is a bit of a pop off the floor to a bit of a bad right hand right at the very beginning of the route. Then he goes into this section of blue slopers, but all of them have little jibs just added onto them just to help the climbers get through that first initial 3 quick draws. In the middle of the wall, big slopey volumes, but again massive footholds. There's 2 of the biggest footholds I've ever seen on the lead route before, these giant oranges right to the left of the big jugs. So a big section of slightly funky climbing but relatively basic in the middle of the wall before trending right up the head wall here. And again it goes into small crimps all added onto the side of these small black triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 triangles in a row, all with additional blue jibs screwed onto them. Relatively basic but slightly poor on the feet, and it's really going to be who has the forearm resistance, because it's mostly crimps and it's hand strength combined with that forearm endurance. Like I said, you've got to feel like if you're tired going into this lead route, which lots of people seemingly are, you know, I don't want to name any names, but there's definitely a few going through the bouldering. Akiyo Noguchi, one of the biggest superstars out there, who did really look a little bit fatigued at the end of the bouldering round. These guys have had an epic World Championships just to get to this stage of the competition, and now they're into the combined World Championships. So it's been a big week of climbing. So to be able to get through to this position, fatigue is surely going to be an issue. But there's a couple of the athletes out there, Shauna and Janja especially, are currently sitting in positions 1 and 2, who really did look the freshest going through the bouldering. But this is the route that really does favour those endurance climbers. People like Mori, Chaeyun Seo, this is a route really for those guys as well. Based on what we've seen this season already, this is the very top of the wall. 3 big black pinches in a row there, slightly tricky sequence, but then you get into this giant steering wheel at the top. You've got the 2 blue Gaston screw-ons on there, and you really just hug your way up the steering wheel to finish. There's a relatively good additional crimp on top where you can clip the final quick draw there. Again, all of the stuff on the left-hand side of the route there is out. That is all for the men's competition. None of that will really endanger the climbers at all. That won't really come into play whatsoever. The rope there, just running through the quick draws, just shows the climbers the line as per every observation. The route says just leave the rope running through the quick draws to see which ones they have to clip.
And as ever in league climbing, it's all about which handhold you get to. That is your score. All the handholds are numbered on a map given to the judges, albeit they're not visible on the wall. And your score is which handhold you get to. As I say, if climbers are tied, it will come down to time. So we will keep a very close eye on the clock as we look up some of the climbers inspecting the route. And this is the biggest route of most climbers' lives.
Yeah, if this is the route that means you get your ticket to Tokyo, it's massive. There's no 2 ways about it really. Just leading into this championship, there's been so much hype, so much anticipation, so much nervous energy. There's so many people here tonight, and yeah, if you get your place tonight by the fact that there could be a few Japanese going through, it's going to be some parties on there tonight, surely. Tokyo's going to be lit up, even though they've got another round of climbing to do this one after the rest day. There could be some big celebrations within the next hour or so here in Tokyo. One thing to note for this observation is climbers usually are allowed off of the stage during an observation, and this time, just the way that the arena here has been constructed, climbers have to stay on the stage. Therefore, there's a whole bunch of spotters right at the edge of the stage just to make sure that nobody bins it off the back of the stage. Actually, a B-layer fell off the stage earlier on this week, so it is possible. So they've got a few helpers just to make sure that the climbers don't go too far back. And really, you want to get as far away from the wall as possible because it's so steep, 40 degrees in the middle of the wall. Just have a really good look at these top holds.
Very interesting to see how observation is being done as well. A little more mixing of nationalities, I think, than we often see during an observation. There's almost a feeling here that we're all in this together as a sport, this combined qualification. It's a step into the unknown. It's an enormous day in the history of this fabulous sport. And yeah, there could be some parties had tonight, that is for sure. I mean, we've got 5 Japanese women in this combined qualification. We've got 4 Slovenian women, so depending on how it goes, you might not need to finish 7th, 8th, 9th, you might not even finish in the top 10, and you might be already put forward for Olympic selection. So much to play for, and it's all going to go down right here.
What's good, Charlie, what I like about this route is the fact that it's not going to come down to a trick or some surprise sequence. It's going to come down to just who has the most resistance left at the end of the day.
Well, I think the route setters probably thought, right, we've got the speed climbing started now, we've got the bouldering, they can do some jumping around, they can use their power, they can use their creativity. The job of a lead route, in inverted commas, is just to give them hard move after hard move and see who can keep fighting the longest. And it seems that that's exactly the way they've set this route. So that's 6 minutes of observation up. Janja Garnbret currently furthest away from the back of the wall. There she is, having a final look up.
Yeah, I have to say, Janja in the last 45 seconds there just walked over to her compatriot Lucka Rakovec and really was barely even looking at the wall. I think she's just had a look up. And, yeah,
I can do that.
Looks pretty steady.
Well, I mean, I think for someone like Janja, we use the word straightforward to denote the type of moves, not the fact that climbing is easy, but it's a straightforward route. And Janja probably took a couple of minutes to look at it and thought, there's nothing funky there. It's about who can hold on the longest, who can fight the best, and that's probably me. So she's looking confident, and as well she might, coming into this lead element of the combined qualifiers. Janja is leading the way on 14 ranking points because she got 7th in the speed, 2nd in the boulder. 7 multiplied by 2 gives her 14 ranking points, and she's also on 14 ranking points is Shauna Coxsey. She was 14th in the speed and 1st in the bouldering, and obviously 14 times 1, 14. So let's get the scores on screen. That's how they stand right now. It's ranking coming into the competition from the main World Championship that puts Janja ahead of Shauna right now. Alexandra Miroslav, although she was 19th in the bouldering, she was 1st in the speed, so followed up her World Championship win last night with 1st place in the combined speed today. And then Futaba Ito, Petra Klingler, Miho Nonaka, Anouck Jaubert, Akiyo Noguchi, Niu and Brooke Raboutou. That could look very different by the end of this league competition. Quick draws still swaying on the lead route. The rope's been pulled down. We are ready for the first climber to go. It will be Vita Lukan. This has slightly got away from her, this combined event. She was 20th in the speed, would have been hoping to make amends in a big way on the boulders, but ended up in 9th place, and now has got real work to do if she's going to salvage something from it. Needs really 1st, 2nd, 3rd, you would have thought, to have even a shot at a place in the combined final on Tuesday. But we shall see. Anything can change. You can see there in the crowd, Bassem Marwem would have been hoping for better, would have been climbing in the men's combined qualifier if he'd just won one race of last night's speed final. And you can see famous name after famous name. There's Jan Hoyer, Jerne, Krudanchi, Perhart, Yoshiyuki Ogata, Loke Timmermans, Becca Frangos, and a few lesser known stars of the future. These kids are growing up in the right country if they want to get strong at competition climbing, that is for sure. Japan churning out the talent, and as I said, 5 Japanese climbers in today's combined qualifier. If they send all 5 through in the top 7, albeit that will be decided on Tuesday, got a big decision on their hands which ones to take.
Do you really have to wonder what would go into that decision-making process? Do they look at injuries, do they look at longevity, do they look at 2024 and people's second chance, or what? It's, you know, to be in the position of the team managers right now is a very tough place to be. You know, Olympics for many athletes is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially in a sport that's so demanding like climbing. You know, 5 years from now, 2024, that's a long way off.
It would be a very big call, I think. Yeah, I mean, climbing also not nailed on for Paris 2024, so nothing's guaranteed. Injuries happen, loss of form happens, loss of motivation happens, all sorts of things happen. I think if you were to tell an athlete your chance will come next year or 2 years from now, that's one thing, but if you say to an athlete your chance will come in 5 years, that would be a very, very big call.
You can see on the route a feature that the route setters have employed a lot on this route, so it's big sort of volume-based fiberglass holds with additional screw-ons added onto them, just something a bit more bite to it. This is right up in the top head wall, the top corner there. 3 dog bowls in a row, which is possible to get a bit of a rest at that point before questing back left on this big traverse left to right. This route features so many kind of different crossovers, crossing under, left, right, just to go back and forth. This is a 12-metre vertical height wall, which is particularly short for a World Cup standard wall. Usually we expect around 15 metres vertical height, so it's a bit short, but the route setters have had to employ big traverses. We've seen that's been a theme all of this week for the standard Lead World Championships, and the theme continues here.
I have to say big shout out to the route setters. The setting this week on the lead wall has been as good as I can remember anywhere, really. They've had the level absolutely right. They've separated the climbers. We haven't really seen many tricks, many strange moves, but the climbers have basically been judged according to who can figure out these weird moves. They've been traditional, well-set lead routes at exactly the right level. Boulder setters got it right earlier on in the combined, and can the lead setters do the same? Their work has been impeccable all week, and they've got this route, the men's qualifiers, and then the 2 finals, just to round out what's been a fabulous performance from them. One thing to keep an eye out today, it's about the only part of the route where you can't see any dual texture holds. There's a lot on this route. A lot of the blue holds early on are all dual texture. Some of the hold is useful, some of it is useless. All the triangular volumes where there's black, it's high friction, where it's white, it's low friction. And,
I think in the midsection of the wall and the top of the wall, it's going to be more about foot slips potentially than anything else, with volumes all facing, triangular volumes all facing up. It's really difficult to put the power down on sideways faces of volumes. I think when you've got crimps, you've got a bit pumped, it's really easy to lose tension and start sliding down the wall. You can see the judges referring to one of the route setters at the moment, just querying something I was querying earlier at the very top of the wall around the steering wheel. It's marked as hold 40-41. It's just the edges of the volume itself. So hopefully there'll be no confusion later on as to actually where hold 40-41 actually starts. It's just a giant round volume. There is 2 screw-ons on it, but they are clearly marked 38-39. But after that, 42 is the top, and there's a couple of holes in between.
we didn't see earlier on the lower half of the rankings as they stand right now. It's Julius Chanourdie, Jesse Pilz, Alannah Yip, Lucka Rakovec, Vita Lukan, Nanako Kura, Chaeyun Seo, Krampl, Mori and Evgenia Kazbekova. So we're about ready for the arrival of Vita Lukan. She will be out first, followed by Brooke Raboutou and then Petra Klingler. They are the first three climbers out. Petra Klingler went so well in the bouldering earlier on. Ended up third, 4 tops for her. Wasn't too shabby on the speed wall either. 8th place. Anything resembling a good performance from Petra here could well be enough to seal her place in the combined final next Tuesday. And, as I've said a couple of times, depending on the nationality of who's in there with her, it could seal an invitation to the Olympics as well.
Imagine Vita Lukan coming out first. Could actually show us quite a lot of the routes. She actually made the lead final in the World Championships here earlier this week. Ended up 7th there, which she was a little bit disappointed with 7th, considering she went into the final with in 2nd place. So I imagine Vita Lukan's going to come out here and give us a real scrap early on this lead route.
Yeah, Vita Lukan's really got nothing to lose. Would have come in with very, very high hopes for this combined final, despite qualifying 20th, which was a little bit lower than she might have hoped. She made it into the combined qualifiers. And as Mike said, 7th in the main World Championship lead earlier this week. Disappointing on the boulders, but she will give us a really good insight into this route, and I can just see her in the doorway down on left of the wall. She is ready to roll. Here she comes, 6 minutes on the clock. That will begin when she leaves the ground. See what a punishing set of boulders there were. Vita, a couple of pretty sizable bruises on the legs. Had a real scrap in her hands. Let's say the bouldering didn't go to plan. Speed certainly her weakest discipline. And this is really a nothing to lose opportunity to try and bump that score up. Remember, the ranking points are calculated by multiplying your ranking in each individual discipline. So in the example of Vita, she was 20th and last in the speed. She was 9th in the boulder. 20 multiplied by 9 is 180. If, for example, she was second in the lead, 180 would then be multiplied by 2 for that second place, giving her a score of 360. So that's how it works, and she's got real work to do if she wants to stand any chance of being Tuesday's final.
Slightly inefficient start there for Vita, and having to add a hand swap at the bottom of the move, bottom of the route where her right foot currently is. Has to correct it and get flowing again now though. Sometimes after an early mistake, it's hard to clear that out of the mind and focus on the rest of the moves. Just see the right foot slipping slightly on the dual texture. Really big wide move, but that's when those massive footholds come into play. Four quick drills in, she's choosing to take a slight rest, just chalking mostly. Go into these 10 or so triangular volumes here, all with very similar in-cut crimps on the edges of them. 40 degrees overhanging this section of the wall. It's where the forearms are really going to start kicking in now. This is the level that's pretty much consistent throughout the rest of the route.
By the way, if you are following the scores live on your computer, they are updating in real time. In reality, it's about 10 seconds behind real time, but you will see the scores ticking away, currently showing Vita as 16. In reality, she's more like 18, 19. They're just a couple of moves behind, but you can follow the scores live as the update on the IFSC website. Vita now pausing underneath the first of those two big semicircular volumes. Set a high point in the women's semi-final that lasted for a long time in the lead. So we could really see a strong performance here in the lead and get a good look at this route, and that's the first real mistake. Went up with the left hand and was just short, but goes a second time and makes it. 3:45 left on the clock for Vita. Having to avoid the white section of those volumes. As I mentioned earlier, the white bit is low friction, the black bit is very high friction. There's a lot of dual texture holds on this route, and all those triangular volumes, the white and black ones, are an example of that.
Looking really pumped in the right arm. She's got to do this big cross through. That style for Vita. Sometimes she does look pumped, but somehow manages to keep on trucking for quite a few extra moves. We saw that earlier on in the Lead World Championships.
And I think that's clever climbing. She was getting really tired, found a good position from which to clip from, and decided to do the double clip while she was there.
Another little rest opportunity coming up once she gets through this little undercut drop down move. First of those big dog bowls on the right. Should be able to move from there into the middle one where you can really establish a decent rest on some half decent footholds. Choosing to go back and forth between this right hand side pull and the undercut from underneath there. Doesn't look particularly restful on that undercut, left foot just smearing on the wall.
Up to the first of these dishes, route set to say that there's something of a rest here. You're never really giving your whole body a rest. Definitely can't get both hands off, but you can at least get one hand off, albeit that the one you're leaving on the wall is still working quite hard to keep you there.
This is a better rest position, and she'll probably stay there for a little bit compared to the rests below, just due to the fact that you get two hands next to each other, whereas before it's been spread on the hands.
Vita going really well here. This is pretty much where the route kicks in difficulty up another level. 3 moves in, you hit a pretty consistent difficulty level that lasts up until here, and then it gets even harder, and you can see now Vita's movement's getting a little more jerky as she begins to move out left, and the hard moves just keep on coming, and it's more overhanging than it looks, that section of wall. Now going to reach through for a pinch and can't quite manage it, but that is a really strong early performance from Vita. I think that'll be a 34 plus once all is said and done. She was going out towards hole 35. It was the pinch where we lost her. As soon as the foot went, there was no way of hanging on to that.
Yeah, it was a left foot, exactly what I was saying about those volumes, triangular volumes. Really difficult to put the power through. She was looking like she had a little bit left there as well, actually. Shake of the head. We did say that she did make the lead final earlier on this week, so we was expecting a good performance from Vita. We don't have to panic too early, that the route's too easy.
No,
good early start.
And I think there's some hard moves above there as well. That is for sure. But as I said, Vita looked very strong, particularly in the semi-final earlier on this week in the Lead World Championships. So Brooke Raboutou of Boulder, Colorado will be out next. Here she is, 40 seconds to look at the route. And I thought for a second she was about to storm straight onto the wall and get going, but as it is, she does stop. Take a look at the route. That is what she's faced with. We've talked this week about having a look up and seeing where the quick draws are hanging, seeing where the current high point is, all but the final quick draw are swaying. I think Brooke take every second of that 40 to have a look at the route.
Seemed like a very long 40 seconds to me.
I think the chat with the stopwatch might have started it 10 seconds late. Now she can get underway. So there's a couple of pretty steady moves to get you started.
Yeah, it's quite an awkward move in many ways. It's behind you and you can't quite see where it is once you're mounted up on the starting ledge. You can see her feet on it. You can see how steep it is all of a sudden there. Vita, actually that's where she made the slight mistake, so Brooke cleanly through that bottom section.
So the route just does not relent from here on up. No move particularly hard, but by the same token, no move particularly easy, and the pump will kick in. And how you can cope with day after day, move after move, will be found out. Big commitment required for that move. But no problem at all for Brooke, and she's found a very clever little knee bar there.
Yeah, she's between the two biggest holes on the entire route. Only 4 quick draws up though, so you don't imagine she'll stay here for too long. Time not really been an issue at all this championships.
No, the length of the wall has meant time hasn't been too much of an issue, although we have to say Anna Verhoeven in the women's lead semi-final was timed out, but she's the only one I can remember having any issues with time. 1:42 it took Vita Lukan to get to 34 plus, hole 34 plus. 34 for the hole she reached, and the plus for moving towards the next hole from that hole.
Slight fumble of the quick draw there for Brooke. That's a sort of tiny little mistake that could be crucial on a route like this. She's climbed really efficiently and really effectively up to this point though. Quite a few wide moves across the shoulders.
Now this is where we saw a little bit of a mistake from Vita Lukan. She went up here with the left hand and just didn't go with quite enough conviction. No such worries for Brooke, who is climbing really well here.
Yeah, there's a small little jib on the end of the nose of that volume, but not Vita or Brooke has either seen or used. Doesn't look like they need it, to be fair. Awkward clipping position now and this awkward crossover.
And like Vita, decides to do the lean over to the right before clipping.
Yeah, crossed over the top of the body rather than underneath her left arm. Slightly more powerful way of doing it.
This is a really tough move for Brooke, but if she can do the move above, then she'll get onto that ever so slight resting position where we saw Vita pausing just on this big dish here. See as she grits her teeth that she's really having to work hard here.
Just not having a proper foothold for her right leg, just smearing on the side of the volume. It isn't the ideal resting position, therefore she's pushing on. Goes straight away with the left hand there. You think that's an early mistake straight out of the rest. Has to go harder with the right arm lock off to move straight up left hand again. It's his undercut. early mistake straight out of the rest there. To hold 31 at the moment.
Brooke really got a scrap on her hands here, but going really, really well. Has to be careful not to tread on that quick draw by accident. Every move a real fight here for Brooke. That's hole 34 where we lost Vita. That's 35, so that will be the lead for Brooke. It's just a question now of how high she can take that high point. Decides to get the clip done. That's the last one before the top. Moving over to the left now. Hole 36, and that is where we lose her, but Brooke Raboutou sets a new high point, moves into first place after the two climbers, with Petra Klingler out to come next, and just by coincidence, same time as Vita Lukan, 1:42.
That'll probably be a 36 plus. Interesting thing about Brooke's technique there, she was really open hand dragging all of the holes, her little finger was off most of the time. Do you see that quite a lot with the younger climbers? But didn't employ the full crimp that you probably see a lot of the other athletes doing. As soon as it gets pumped, normally the thumb would wrap right over the back of the fingers and really lock those fingers onto the hole. But Brooke, little finger was dragging off, staying really open-handed.
Really good fight from Brooke. She's looking really tired for the last few moves. Just kept digging it out. Petra Klingler now, former Boulder World Champion. Had a really, really strong day in the bouldering. Ended up third, and speed was pretty good too. Ended up 8th. Give her a current score of 24, 3 multiplied by 8.
Here comes our next climber.
Here is Petra,
Number 18.
superstar of the sport. Only just made it into the combined qualifiers. Main World Championships didn't quite go according to script, and in stark contrast to Brooke, just wants to get straight on the wall.
I feel like if Petra can put the fight of her life in here, this could be the ticket to Tokyo.
Yeah, it could be back here pretty much a year from now. About 20 kilometers away on the seafront down in central Tokyo, competing in climbing's first Olympic Games.
Petra just moves her left hand right into the middle of that hold, now bumps it down to make space for the match. Do you wonder if nerves are going to be a factor here for Petra? I feel like she's really focused on this combined discipline in the Olympics. She knows that the door is wide open.
Yeah, she was in good spirits this morning after we spoke to her on this afternoon after the bouldering. Absolutely delighted with how that had gone.
Decides not to jump out to the giant volume there. Just manages to go statically, hits it on the far right hand side, then really shuffles along. Gets that same knee bar we see for Brooke. Inside knee bar and outside knee bar.
Again, choosing not to rest. Petra perhaps lacking the endurance of climbers like Jessie Pilz, Janja Garnbret, and I think the tactic will be just climb as quickly as you can, get as many moves done as you can while the power lasts, and you can see that she's not really pausing. She found that knee bar, barely chalked up, and just got moving again.
Early signs of fatigue setting in here a little bit for Petra.
90 seconds gone, she's already almost at the head wall, albeit she's got this big traverse to do.
She manages to hit the left heel perfectly. Just hit it as a drag to begin with. Had to reel it in pretty hard, head tucks down. Petra's working here.
Again, little thought about when to clip. Often feels like on every lead route we'll get a quick draw that causes few competitors problems. It might be that one just below the head wall. Got to decide when to clip it.
Potentially, importantly, she doesn't get the double clip just yet. Left arm's looking really pumped all of a sudden here for Petra.
I think that's probably quite sensible. Although it means coming back and having to do the move again, it doesn't mean at least that she can get a bit of rest for that left arm. Chooses to clip from here. It's not the most comfortable clipping position. She might be a little frustrated when she carries on and realises there's a slightly more comfortable position to be had here, where she's hanging right now. Given how well the other disciplines have gone, Petra, I think, will be pretty happy with this already. Every move, you'd imagine, pretty much a bonus from here on out. Hugging that volume with her legs, to try and get as much weight off her arms as possible.
Open-handed sloper, the rest not ideal, but it is the best position on the route that you can get two hands next to each other. Pushing straight on now, makes no mistake, goes straight up with the right hand.
Now Petra heading out left. It was a 34 plus for Vita, 35 plus for Brooke. Oh, and she was just going out towards hold 32 when we lost Petra. That'll be a 31 plus, I think. She won't know what anyone else did, and there's not much she can do now. Just has to watch and see how the maths add up. Looks like she maybe felt she had a little bit more to give.
This is the first point on the route where she really had to dig in. Didn't get that left hand that well. As soon as she got it, she just had to bump it and just adjust it, just to get something dug into the back of the hold. That's where it came undone. So, I mean, she was obviously pumped. She was obviously trying hard, quite a few moves lower down there. But as she came down, just a bit of a shake of the head, and that's not what we saw from her in the speed and the boulder. So she potentially slightly disappointed with that. Now gives a wry smile to the camera. Will it be enough to get the final seeding into the top 8?
Mike didn't look happy as she came down at all. First reaction as she fell was kind of a curse of frustration. Any idea? I mean, it looked to me like she was tired, she fought hard, perhaps felt she had another couple of moves.
I think having now been on the route, an instant reaction was, I don't think this route is that hard.
Right.
And I think I could have done a bit more. You know, she knows that there's a lot of really good route climbers on this list still to come. One of them especially being 2018 world champion Jessie Pilz. And yeah, the way that the first few athletes have all been right up into that head wall within 7 moves of the top. You know, there's definitely toppable opportunities here.
So here goes Jessie Pilz. Didn't manage to find her way onto the main lead World Championship podium this time around after her win in the last World Championships in Innsbruck. But what can she do in the combined? 11th in the speed with a 9.564 seconds, and then 7th in the bouldering. Managed to get 3 tops and 4 zones in the bouldering.
Jessie going again with the left hand there, quite a powerful way of doing that bottom section.
We would expect this to be Jessie's strongest discipline. She has got bags of endurance. Having seen what we've already seen, I don't think it's out of the question that we could actually see a top here. Remember, the climbers are coming in reverse order of how they qualified for this combined World Championship, but that doesn't necessarily mean an accurate representation of the order they should come out in each discipline. If this was a pure lead event, you'd expect Jessie to be coming out right at the end. As it is, she's relatively early, so I don't think it's out of the question that we'll see a very early top here.
Thinking back to the combined competition in Innsbruck last year, we had a similar but not identical format to this. Jessie and Janja both topped that final route.
I am keeping a very close eye on the clock, that's for sure. Should it come down to it.
Jessie just puts that left heel and it just sinks onto the little jib on the end. A route of this nature that is pure endurance climbing, it's always quite hard to tell. You always get surprised, oh, there's another climber getting close to the headboard, but you can't really see what's going on in the forearms. These climbers don't give too much away in terms of how much lactic is building up in the forearm, so it's always quite difficult to see who's looking good at, or not at which point on the route.
Jessie looking so composed so far, as you would imagine. Got another good lead climber out after her, Julia Chanourdie.
This is a nice little move here, little hip flick out to the right, whilst locking really hard on the left arm to bring the body across to the right, getting into the first of the dog bowls.
Really got to go for that move as well, because they're dual texture holds you're going for. If you miss, if you're slightly short, you're not going to be able to just pinch it and use your thumb. You just slip right off. It means you've got to really go and commit to getting to that dish. More than half of the time remaining as Jessie arrives at the head wall. Penultimate clip still swaying. Petra Klingler in front of Jessie. You can see there, certainly not the face of someone who's absolutely pumped out of their brain.
Really nice deep drop knee, most efficient clipping position possible. That's where the feet get really tricky, and this next little crossover is hardest move potentially on the head wall.
Now is when the difficulty level really ratchets up. Once you leave that orange triangle that Jessie's right hand has just left, the difficulty level gets ratcheted up, and now you move out left across to the pinch. Another dual texture hold of weights. You've got to hit it absolutely right. Try and drive some force through those feet, and then you can see the top beckoning. It's not too far away from Jessie distance-wise, but there's some very, very tough moves to do first, and suddenly she looks tired. Now she goes out left. Hold 36. Had to be very quick and precise with that hand swap, and was. You can see just how hard she's having to fight. The step up in difficulty very apparent. But either way, that is a new high point for Jessie. Route setters are doing their job perfectly so far, separating the climbers pretty much move by move.
Yeah, you have to say, as soon as she gets over that crossover around hold 34, this move here, a really awkward crossover because the holds are so close to each other. It's really tight in the elbows. So much force going through the elbows at that point. A lot of recreational climbers will know what that feels like. When you get into seemingly a pretty hard boulder problem between these three black side balls, just have to bump in between them. All of a sudden, a total change in grip style. And I think that's where we're going to start to see a lot of separation.
So there we have it, 36 plus, almost 36 I'd imagine will become 36 plus for Jessie Pilz. Julia's Chanourdie will be out next, and it's Nanako Kura, then Alannah Yip, Anouck Jaubert, I'm Mori, Lucka Rakovec, and suddenly we'll be halfway through the lead portion of this combined qualifier. Julia Chanourdie went well on the speed wall, 9.263, then got 3 tops in the bouldering, so she ended up 9th in the speed, 8th in the bouldering. I think it might have liked to be slightly higher up the order in bouldering, given the fact that she's been a reasonably regular finalist in the Boulder World Cups this year. And has a chance to make amends on the lead wall, which traditionally is where she's strongest.
Just reading the climber's body language when they come down. Normally, if a World Cup route was super hard, someone like Jessie Pilz there has come down just 5 moves from the top. She's right up into the top head wall. You would expect a bit more of a smile, turn to the crowd a little bit, a bit more of a rise out of them, but seemingly just the way that the and Brooke especially and Jessie, they came down, they look slightly annoyed by the fact that they've not gone a little bit higher. To me, that says that the route is not that difficult. All things being relative.
Well, I think they're probably aware of mistakes that may be so minute we might not even see them, that they think, if only I hadn't done that, I might have had a little more energy, or perhaps the move they fell on felt doable if they're a little fresher. But I agree, we haven't seen any big celebrations, although to be honest, it would be a dangerous game to play to be celebrating at this early stage. So Julia has really enjoyed the transformation to all-round combined athlete from somebody who was mainly lead climbing back in the day and is now a bona fide all-rounder. What a bouldering season she had in the World Cups earlier on this year. 6 Boulder World Cups already gone in 2019. Janja Garnbret crowned champion after clean sweeping the season, but Julia Chanourdie had an excellent time. Not many climbers are consistent finalists in 2 disciplines, but Julia absolutely in that category, and 9th in the speed, not a bad result either. Certainly far from out of the question that she could seal a place at least in the final and probably in the Tokyo Olympics with a good performance on this route. Nice
little efficient step through method there with the left foot through. Looking really comfortable up to this point. So now just does step back through. Managed to take just a slight pause before this really tricky crossover with the left arm. This time doesn't look for the step through, just drops the right foot down instead. Crosses over by keeping the body open to the left. Seemed like a really nice way of doing it. Most other climbers have crossed through with the body facing right, which has made it quite hard.
Very smooth, very good work from Julia so far.
Oh, locking off through that section and quickly shaking the hand. Didn't find that move tricky whatsoever. She's got to bump the left hand to the left a little bit just to make a little bit of room. Looks like she's just sailing through, not opting for a rest whatsoever.
So this is where the route has proved to kick in for pretty much everyone. You want to arrive here as fresh as you can.
Staying really front on here. We saw Jessica Pilz with a deep drop knee there.
Oh, and a big surprise. Julia falls almost from nowhere. She definitely had something left. Was about to get stuck into the really hard section of the route and fell much lower than we would have expected, and that could have huge repercussions for her score.
Wow, do wonder she didn't take that rest around the middle dog bowl whatsoever, around hold 28. Just quickly tapped it and moved on. You do wonder if she should have taken a bit of a rest. And at that point there, it was the feet once again. These really vertical footholds she's really struggling with.
Yeah, she never really placed the left foot.
Yeah, you could see the left hand was particularly poor anyway. Yeah, she's walking off there rubbing her forearms, but fatigue is clearly an unknown factor for us here in the commentary box and for the route setters. And you think Julia could potentially have climbed that route pretty tired before the first move.
Yes. Yeah, it's not just fatigue on the route you're managing here, it's fatigue over the course of a week at brutally high level competition. So Julia Chanourdie set herself up for a reasonably good result, but needed to perform well on the lead wall, and now all she can do is watch. Nanako Kura, one of the big casualties from this competition so far, 13th on the speed wall and then 15th on the boulder, not the result she was looking for after making the final in the Boulder World Championships earlier this week. Needs a very, very low number here is all I will say. Yeah, she needs to be ranked probably top 5 at least to stand a chance of progressing to the final. Such was the disappointment in the boulder.
Slightly uncomfortable move right at the bottom of the wall there. She's just feeling around, ends up getting her left hand where she wants her right. I think we might see a casualty on that first move.
It doesn't seem out of the question.
Hopefully that's not going to be a medical casualty, that would just be somebody who's fallen off, unfortunately.
So Nanako Kura, lower section of the route, 10.118 on the speed wall, and then just the one top on the boulder wall.
Really slow and jerky up to this point. It's taken over a minute just to get to the third quick draw. Seem to be bouncing around with quite the same confidence as the likes of Brooke and Petra at the moment. Goes up the left hand, goes back down. She's going to have to repeat the same move. Looks like she's going to jump it.
Here she goes. Nanako Kura, actually once she landed it, looked very, very solid indeed, held the swing nicely.
Yeah, there's a massive tick mark there that the route setters have put a big stripe of chalk just to show you where the sweet spot is on that. Maybe they were thinking they might lose a few athletes on that move, but yeah, it was okay once she hit it.
Very much back to cruising now. Nanako Kura, 6th climber out, 20 climbers in total. A spot in the combined final, potentially a spot in the Olympics up for grabs.
Slightly awkward clipping position with it being right in her face.
So she'll pop out right, and then you got to use these toe hooks / heel hooks. Toe hook becomes a heel hook. Slightly awkward clipping around your hand like that. You've got to drag the rope across your own wrist. Two and a half minutes elapsed. Could do with getting off this extremely steep section of wall and onto slightly lower angle terrain if possible. This was a move where Vita Lukan went up, didn't like it and had to come back down, and Nanako Kura's taking a while to think about it as well. Lining it up now, half her time elapsed. She's definitely got time to get further, but has she got energy? She needs to set and then go, and he's short.
Yeah, didn't have a left heel on the left scrawn either. We've seen some success with that now and some without. She did look super tired from really early in the route there. I think the week leading into this combined championships really has been the undoing of Nanako, unfortunately. We will start to see some separation on this move. This seems to be the real first little boulder move on the route. That's around going between 21 and 22, so that would be 21 plus for her.
We await the arrival now of Alannah Yip. There she is. Alannah Yip of Canada makes her way onto the stage. Got her briefly on our broadcast towards the end of the boulder. And I don't think she was over the moon with how it had gone, but her goal for the week was to make it here to the combined championships.
Yeah, not the bouldering. Seeding, she would have liked 11 after the end of the bouldering. I think she would have been looking for a bit more on that, considering that's her favourite discipline.
Yeah, ended up getting two tops in the boulder. Dipped under 10 seconds on the speed wall, 9.963, her best time from her two runs earlier on today. All climbs, apart from Miho Nonaka, recording 2 times. Miho fell on one of her runs, but ended up more than making amends later on. Suddenly the Canadian team comes alive. Really good all-round athlete, Alannah Yip. You can imagine Canada's best hope for qualifying for these Olympics. Remember, each country can only take 2 climbers per gender, 2 women, 2 men. Chooses to use the left knee and then the right knee on that knee bar. It's kind of resting. Not really barring the knee, just resting it on that volume.
It needs a fair bit of power to get out of that position that she was in there. Left pinch is not amazing. So she had crossing through quite hard there. I think Alannah's starting to really tire in the left arm here. Big go again with the off of the left arm here, not off the heel either. Somehow snares that next edge, but just with the front 3 fingers. Still no heels or toes employed. Now goes the right heel. Alannah's really fighting now.
Again, slightly awkward clipping position. Your arm straight out at 45 degrees. Needs to find some energy if at all possible, or find some way of just getting a bit of a rest. Left hand goes out now and she'll continue traversing over left. Looks like she's just regained a bit of composure. There was a couple of moves there where she really jerked. Just having to work really hard. Now she just seems to be settling back into something of a rhythm, but this is the move where we just lost Nanako Kura. Oh, and Alannah went and managed to hold it. Got to go full commitment. We saw Vita Lukan do just that. Ah, and Alannah's second try, and she can't quite find a way.
In many ways, I think she'll be okay with that as a performance. She was looking pretty pumped around hold number 19 and ended up with a 21 plus. Smiles all round. It's a good little battle. This is the move where she had to use a lot of power on the left arm just to lock up to the right-hand crimp. And at this point here, as soon as she did this next cross-through, you could see that things were starting to look a bit iffy.
She did well to hold that the first time, but she was just a couple of millimeters short the second time. You can see the veins popping out on her arms as she comes down. She definitely gave that route everything she had. By the way, was quicker as well by my maths. Yes, so you can see there, pretty much in real time. Thank you, Mr. Software. Alannah Yip had 21 plus, same as Nanako Kura, and moves ahead on time, but because albeit this is not official, only my observation of the clock, she was about 30 seconds quicker up into that point. So here's Anouck Jaubert, the first of what we would call a specialist speed climber, former world record holder, multiple World Cup winner, two-time season World Cup champion in the speed.
So far my athlete of the day, I'd have to say, after a bouldering performance, and speed, of course.
Yeah, second in the speed, and then managed to get a top and 2 zones in the boulder. Was a whisker away from getting 2 tops. Could almost have booked her flights back to Tokyo next year if she'd managed to find that top. As it is, got work to do on the lead route. Be interesting to see what Anouck's tactics are here. She just go, or she try and take your time, or do you just try and bust out as many moves as you can while the forearms will let you?
Somebody who's already won a Speed World Cup this year and medals here in Tokyo. This is going to be a good early battle here for Anouck. Actually no slouch on the boulders, and the technique is impeccable so far on the lead, but is looking a bit tired instantly here.
I think it's easy to underestimate just the angle of this wall. It's absolutely brutal. You just do not get a rest, and you can see already Anouck really having to fight. We'll try and imagine, there we go, to use that left knee just on the theory that a change is as good as a rest. It might be working your groin and your hips and your hamstrings hard, but at least it's not your forearms on another massive volume.
This whole 13 that she's got at the moment, this big powerful move up and right arm does well.
Really committed climbing here from Anouck Jaubert, crossing through now. We saw even climbers the calibre of Alannah Yip struggling with that move. Anouck having to fight really hard as well. This is a fantastic performance from Anouck Jaubert. Now needs to bump up again with the right hand. If she can get the clip, she really could be away here. Anouck Jaubert fighting with all she's got. Does so well to get herself back in and just can't quite manage to move up to hold 19. I think that'll be an 18 plus, and she used up 1 minute and 47 seconds.
That was a good battle. Really inspiring stuff, considering how good she is on the speed. Say previous world record holder, nearly so close to 2 tops in the bouldering, and look at this. That is how you fight on the route. Absolutely gritted teeth on those last couple of moves.
I'm actually surprised at Anouck's frustration there, because there was a couple of moves lower down where I really thought she'd lost it and basically just refused to give up. Interesting that she was frustrated. That seemed like a really good fight to me. Clearly felt she had more to give.
Yeah, you feel like when she's going away from this, the one thing she'll be working on is endurance. Obviously the speed doesn't need any work for this combined format. Bouldering was, to be fair, pretty good. Could always do better, obviously, but it was really up there. And it was just that little bit of extra endurance would go down really well for her.
Mori of Japan now.
Surely this route is going to suit her style. Super light, really good at crimpy endurance climbing.
She's another climber with a lot of work to do, Mike. 18th on the speed, 12.585. And then just 1 boulder in 2 zones. But we've seen her in Youth World Championships look absolutely immense on the lead wall. How can she make amends for a disappointing morning and early afternoon?
The main thing she's got to concentrate on here, not making any silly mistakes. She knows she's going to be one of the favourites on the lead wall here. She's got to keep it together, get rid of any of that negative energy, negative thoughts from this morning.
Just cut loose for a second from the former Youth B lead champion. And could we lose her very low down? Really needs to get those feet re-engaged. That's a lot of energy she's burned there.
She did well to down climb all the way to that rest, but she's so small. The way that she hit that volume on the left, on the right, excuse me, she hit really right on the bad bit. She's just going to have to jump to the good bit. The good bit being kind of centre or just left of centre. She's got to go big here. So she's going to try and go statically again off a heel hook.
It's a really big early mistake from Mori. She seems to have things slightly back under control, but certainly a lot of energy wasted there.
This route seemingly not as hard as what you potentially expect from a semi-final or final level World Cup route, so it'd be quite fascinating to see how far Mori can go now after really battling right at the bottom of the wall.
Swiss coach has just walked past me. He's got a nervous afternoon ahead of him with Petra Klingler. We'll worry about that a bit later on. Mori, meanwhile, has managed to get this attempt back on track, but bear in mind as well that time is much more important in this combined format than it is in a normal lead World Cup, where we could rely on count back often to separate the climbers, because we don't have count back in the combined qualifiers. It's about time if climbers tie on a certain score, so Mori not only burned energy but also burned a lot of time.
Slightly new sequence there. She went left hand all the way down to that far left volume before putting her heel over the top of the hand, so a slightly neater way of getting through that section without swinging too much on the heels. Crosses under the right arm, slightly, in my opinion, slightly more efficient way of doing it.
Now she's heading out towards the first of those three dishes. Dual texture holds, as many are on this route. You can see the outside shiny and useless, and that means you can put your thumb on it, but you can't get much out of that thumb. It's more just stabilizing your hand. You've basically got to squeeze the inside of the hold.
If she wants to take a rest here, she's going to be in a slightly different position. She can't take a rest because her feet had left that big orange volume from below.
She's done really well here, Mori, to still be going quite so well. We are talking, of course, about the woman that won bronze in the Lead World Championships earlier on this week, but it was a big mistake low down that's definitely cost her energy, it's definitely cost her time, and now she's getting pumped. Just see a little more hurried in the movements, keen to get that rope clipped in, a little more jerky. Goes up with the left hand up to hold 32. Again, another hard crosser here. We saw Jessie Pilz up here getting really compressed. It's really awkward when the holds are right in front of your face.
Decides to cross under her left arm again.
This is a brilliant fight from Mori, a bit like in the Lead World Championship final earlier on this week. She made an early mistake and might wonder what might have been. It's the same on this route. How much energy would she have if she hadn't made that mistake? It may not matter. It looks like she might be able to do it anyway. She's set a new high point. First climber to get to that hold 37. Now 38 will manage to chalk up hold 39. Could we see a first top here? She's got to hug this huge round orange volume. You can't jump for the top. You could see her eyeing it up, but she could be in position here. She is. That was incredible from Mori. Got to get the top clipped if we want it to be a top, and does. Mori, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, brilliant fight. That is how you climb in endurance. We said just before she pulled on, surely this is a route that is going to suit her. It absolutely did. An absolute disaster at the bottom of the route around quick draw number 4. This is where she had to really fight at this stage here, where she lost the left hand. This is actually the down climb section. She went all the way back down to the quick draw number 3, somehow recovered it, managed to kind of sort out a couple of rests, and she clearly has just an epic level of endurance in the way that she did that top move. Nice little double to the top of the wheel. steering wheel right at the top of the wall.
And look there, bottom right of your screen, 57 seconds. So if we get more tops, keep an eye on the time. 57 seconds remaining for Mori. But that was an amazing fight. She made a big, big mistake low down, and we were waiting for it to come and bite it, and it didn't.
Good classic endurance climbing there.
Here comes our next climber.
Proves that on this route, if you've got that level of endurance, that background level of endurance, make mistakes, it is possible to recover, such as the nature of the route. Not too many cruxes, not too many really hard moves. Just keeps on trucking this route.
Lucka Rakovec of Slovenia gets ready to go. th in the speed, 12th in the boulder, needs a massive result here in lead.
Just goes wrong-handed that bottom sequence, ends up sourcing it out. It's the climber that you'll really see giving it the full-hand crimp over a lot of these edges. You can see every single hold. A lot of climbers have held that as a big pinch with the thumb underneath. She just wraps the crimp, thumb right over the top of the fingers.
Does well to swing the feet back in. Doesn't really pause, barely engage that left knee. Actually, we saw a lot of climbers, particularly Anouck Jaubert, really try and milk that position.
This is a route that's really going to suit Lucka's style again. So she did look a bit tired in the bouldering.
Climbers have been here for quite a long time, not just competing. A lot of teams, including the Slovenians, came early to make the most of these superb Japanese training facilities. Also just accustomed to the heat, make sure that jet lag wasn't a problem by the time the competition began. So they've been here a while, they've been climbing a while. Lucka Rakovec, as you said, Mike, began to look tired in the bouldering.
So we saw Mori using a slightly different sequence. I went left hand to that lower volume, you can see furthest left before bumping the heel into that and going left hand up again. Not needed for Lucka, so strong on the lock-offs and the crimps. See really repetitive hands. Hand positions there, just really crimping on every single hold. See a lot of climbers, if they can crimp it, they will.
Oh, heart in the mouth moment for Lucka. The way she read that move was so committing and so powerful.
Yeah, almost come out of nowhere there, potential fall. She looked really solid, just as she rotated round, big sag, and she managed to save it with a quick tap in. Pump's really kicking in all of a sudden. She won't be crimping this next hold, it's unlikely anyway. Just as she's trying to rest the left arm, you can see the left arm is still bent. Shows that she's really pumped now. She just relaxes a little bit. She's got in a really solid position here. Drop knee on the right, left leg high on a good hold.
Lucka taking a big old stretch to the arms. Not really a rest positions, but can at least chalk up, but as I said earlier, the hand that's holding you on is actually working reasonably hard. Actually, it's hard to tell from that angle, but from our angle, we're right in front of the wall. Really awkward position for foot and knee there.
Always so difficult to calculate when to actually leave the rest.
Oh, and looks good. As soon as the feet cut loose, you feared might not be able to get them back on, and so it proves.
Just as she went left hand again, they got really overstretched. Feet just pinged off the bottom foothold. She was actually standing on hold 24, whilst her hands were up at 32. This is where she nearly fell over. Big grimace as she crossed through. It's actually really good climbing to slap in, but it was because she went off the left foot down there. This is where it all came undone. Somehow her left foot just left. As she got really stretched across the shoulders, it just raised the body off the foothold slightly. Almost became a compression move through the upper body and the arms. As she went into that position, her feet just raised off the really bad foothold on top of hold 25.
So Niu, the next climber out, and here she comes.
Number 10 from China, Niu.
Niu, next climber out.
Niu then starts her campaign on this route. It's been topped already by Mori, a route that really did favour her style. I only got one top in the bouldering, so she was ended up 16th after that. Niu also just the hands muddled slightly on this lower move. Niu ended up in third after the speed, traditionally a speed specialist. Nothing to her name in the bouldering, no zones, no tops. Crosses through with the right hand for this move. Does manage to get the left hand there now.
This will be interesting, Mike. Niu, silver medalist in the Speed World Championship earlier on, but very much a speed specialist. And you can see having to fight really hard on these lower moves. Don't give you much here, and this was a move where Anouck Jaubert, fellow speed climber, struggled. She'll get the clip done nice and early, I'd imagine, and then you've got to really commit here. And I think if you get it wrong, it'd be hard to come back, and so it proves to Niu.
As she jumped for it, she just wasn't quite pulling into the wall hard enough on the right arm. Hit it completely, flat topped it. Let's have another look. Just to jump for it, the right foot smeared off of that dual texture, actually hit right at the back of that hold, not where you want it.
Ideally you want to get the far side, I guess, of the sweet spot, so you can almost wrap it and leave room for the other hand.
Yeah, you want to be on the angle change really. It's almost 90 degrees, the lip of that. To hit it on the angle change, that suits the hand, kind of the hand shape really nicely, and you can really engage the thumb. But yeah, if you just smash it right on the top like that, you're going to have to be pretty good on the right arm to be able to hold that position, but it was a foot that slipped as well there. Niu out early. She's going to remain quite low down the list, unfortunately.
Yeah, but this is where multiplication is such a big factor in the scores. So if we take, for example, Niu and Anouck Jaubert, let's say, for example, they end up 19th and 20th. There's a huge difference between multiplying your old rankings in the other disciplines by 19 and multiplying them by 20. So, of course, anything can change. It's just an example I give, but Anouck Jaubert now cannot end up worse than 19th. So she'll be watching that, thinking, right, okay, that's one more place gained. Alexandra Miroslav now.
Get another climber. Nothing to their name in the bouldering, but one next to a name after the speed. Speed world champion as of last night. Method will she choose through here? She's eyeing up the match.
Yeah, ended up 19th in the bouldering, but first in the speed. And already you can see this is a big fight.
So even in the speed competition here today, she looked really tired after competing just yesterday.
Yeah, I think is at a slight disadvantage from having had her big moment last night. You've got to somehow get all that adrenaline out, enjoy the congratulations of friends and family, then get a good night's sleep before one of the hardest competition days of your life. Easier said than done. So this is where we lost Niu. What can Miroslav do? Just trying to sort the feet out before she goes. You can see she's already tired. And we lose her on the same move as Niu. And it will come down to time, which of them is ranked higher. So no, again, talking about Anouck Jaubert, who is absolutely in with the shout of qualifying for the combined final. She now will be no worse than 18th. And I think Miroslav, perhaps a slight finger injury. She grabbed it straight away. It might just be skin. I think it's just skin.
Yeah, she was looking at her skin even in the speed competition just after last night's effort. It's a good effort. 3 speed specialists getting into this combined qualification.
Also Niu actually awarded 10 plus. I'm pretty sure Miroslav will get a 10 plus as well.
The judges, they like to give the plus a little bit later than the actual score for some reason.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. You often get the score, but to me, that was hold 10 was the hold Miroslav left. I think it'd be pretty harsh not to give her a 10 plus. For she got a really good hand on hold 11, just couldn't stick it. Evgenia Kazbekova now.
17th after the speed, 18th after the bouldering, which was a real upset.
Quite amazing, really, when you think she was 4th in the Boulder World Championship. She barely believed you if you'd said you're actually going to finish higher in the speed than the boulder. I fear that for Evgenia, this opportunity to be offered an Olympic place by finishing in the top 7 here might actually have gone. The qualification pathway for the Olympics continues over the next few months, but it would take something absolutely miraculous now after a 17th and 18th in the 2 disciplines just earlier on today.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, is it? It's just out there for a training burn now, really. Out there to see what she can learn.
So Evgenia using the knee and the thigh wisely. Just tuning in, Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley here. Women's combined qualifiers. Live from Hachioji. At stake, a place in the combined finals, and potentially, depending on exactly how they finish today, possibly even an Olympic place could be awarded today. It is a momentous day in the history of climbing. Evgenia Kazbekova right in the center of attention in the middle of today. Already climbed in 2 disciplines, now finds herself in the lead wall. Move where we lost several climbers so far. No problem for Evgenia. No shortage of power whatsoever. Alexandra Miroslav walks past our commentary position, looking much as she did when she came down from the wall, which was tired with sore skin.
Again, just looking for the right sequence to cross through here. Seems to be the real second hardest move on the route. Crosses over the top of the right arm, off a heel at the far left. Nice unwind. So she's going to try and go up to the first of these dual texture holds with the right. She does bring down the right foot now. Just sags slightly into the first one. Clearly a bit tired. I wonder what she can get back here.
taking a pretty decent rest here, Evgenia. Made the boulder final, of course, in the main World Championship lead semi-final, ended up 16th there, but it just hasn't gone her way at all today. She will have to try later down the qualification pathway to try and claim that spot at the Olympics, and the feet cut loose, does really well to hold on to it, uses all that boulder power she's got.
I fear that everything she's got back in the rest there, one move out of it, she's lost it all.
And again, the feet cut loose. He ends up taking a pretty sizable fall. Yeah, it went wrong actually when the feet cut loose, and then she managed to get them back on, but it did cost her a lot, and they came off again and she couldn't hold it. This is where they cut loose the first time. You can see here, replaces the feet. And the right foot, I think, just cut loose. And that will be the end of her combined competition. She will have plenty of chances. I still personally think she will end up making it to Tokyo, but it won't be via the World Championships here in Hachioji.
Yeah, the way that the season was going, you know, she was one of the firm favourites to be taking one of those early spaces, but it turns out you've really got to perform on the day. Today it hasn't been her day.
Well, there's so many unknowns about this combined format and how it will pan out, but yeah, she was definitely expected to perform very strongly here, and it hasn't quite worked out.
I think what would be good about the Toulouse combined competition, where we will start selecting more athletes, is that there won't be a big championships just before it, so potentially there's a slightly more level playing field going into that one.
Chaeyun Seo, South Korea. Blew just about everybody watching away with her performances in July in the Lead World Cups. A virtual unknown stormed to 2 victories in the World Cups in the Alps earlier on this summer. Here she is in the combined qualifiers. 10.770 on the speed wall, and then she got a couple of tops in 9 attempts in the boulders. That ended up with her, put her 16th in the speed and 13th in boulder.
In many ways, depending on her form, you'll be almost surprised if she doesn't top this.
Yes, but she has looked one of the climbers who's been a little bit tired from all this effort over the past week or so.
Not just physical effort as well, emotional effort, so much pressure on this young lady to perform at such a young age after such a staggering start to her adult World Cup career. Absolutely blown most people away. You're away on the competitions as well.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone saw that coming. And she has got absolutely superb endurance. We've seen that the route is toppable. Mori found a top, who picked up a bronze in the World Championships. Chaeyun Seo slightly fell away in the Lead World Championships, but here she is in the combined. And this route, we just got to keep on going. Could well suit her style. Not dissimilar style to Mori, and Mori found a top, having made a pretty significant mistake low down.
Yeah, Chaeyun Seo's got through that section without any problems compared to I. So she's got a heel toe lock in between those 2 holds there. Does opt for a heel now. Initially slightly confusing with the route setting there with the different options for the feet. It seems the heel is the best option over a toe.
Let's keep a close eye on the clock, by the way. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if she was to find a top, Mori did it with 57 seconds to go. So she'll need to be quicker than that to move ahead. But first things first, get the route top, then worry about the time. I have to say she's going very quickly, actually. Just under 2 minutes gone.
These athletes definitely won't be focusing on time. They'll just be focusing on climbing a route to perfection.
When we say it's a straightforward route, I think it's worth bearing in mind it's eminently fall-offable, even for climbers of this calibre.
Yeah, there's definitely subtleties within each sequence. Definitely seeing slightly different sequences developing all the time. Even just crossovers like that, some people crossing through underneath the body, some people going over the top. Everyone's got their own slight style preferences. Some minor inefficiencies showing at certain points on the route. Foot slips definitely a possibility.
Suddenly the South Korean team absolutely coming to life. Not sitting too far away from us, you might be able to hear them coming through our microphones.
So will Chaeyun decide to take a rest here? She does off the high left feet. She's got both feet over the whole 25 before pushing on now.
She's done well there, sir. A little bit messy for a couple of moves, but very much firmly back on track. Keep an eye on the time. She's climbed this much quicker than Mori, so if she was able to find the top, she'd likely move ahead on time. Chaeyun Seo going really well here.
Saw a little shake from Mori at that move as well.
This is a big move up here though, this big slap. Ah, and it's where we lose Seo. 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, just scrapes down hold 37, that would probably be a 36 plus.
Yeah,
Still, like you said earlier, Charlie, she was pretty tired going into this competition. It seems like, this championships has not quite happened for her yet.
that'll be the same score as Jessie Pilz, but Jessie was marginally slower, so I think Chaeyun Seo, don't hold me to it, but I think Chaeyun Seo will move ahead of Jessie Pilz, just purely on time. See there, down there, bottom left of your screen, Vita Lukan, already been on the route, now safely in the crowd. Anouck Jaubert just behind her as well, penny for her thoughts. We talk about climbers for whom the World Championship didn't go to plan. Anouck Jaubert, probably one of the biggest surprise packages here at the World Championships, sadly for her, all for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, she was pretty brutally honest on her social media feed. Just saw her over lunch, she's absolutely distraught about not making it through. She said she's in form of her life and it still didn't come together. Such is the nature of the championships. There's always a few casualties.
Fanny, probably the most high-profile one in the women's, didn't feature in the boulder final, doesn't feature in the combined final. Here comes Mia Krampl, 6th to last climber out. We are really getting to the business end here. Everything can change.
Silver medal for Mia in the World Championship lead just a few days ago. Again, a route that you thought would suit her style. I think a slight issue with this route is it suits most of these athletes' style, really. Crimpy endurance climbing.
Mori's top, I have to say, is more and more impressive as the minutes go by, Mike. I mean, she made a massive mistake early on, almost blew the route at half height. Burned a load of energy, burned a load of time. The only thing that could come back to haunt, I think, is how much time she took. If we do see 2 or 3 tops, which is looking increasingly unlikely as this qualifying round progresses. But yeah, amazing performance. Just pulled back on, and then it was just sort of a bit like a battery charging. The energy just seemed to come back.
She's a real fighter, isn't she? She just keeps on going. Some Japanese fans around us and at the bottom of the wall, just where Mia's getting to now, and she looked like she was in a bit of trouble. You know, they were shaking their head. Oh no, that's it. She's not going to make it, and then just blew everybody away with that battle. Mia just hit that in a bad spot there, and actually had to really try all of a sudden on the left shoulder just to reel that one back in. Pushing straight through though.
Mia now heading out towards those toe hooks, heel hooks. They start out as toe hooks, quickly become heel hooks, or she doesn't even employ the toe. You can see the scratch marks on the bottom right volume where people have done, but she ignores them and carries on motoring straight through. after Mia Krampl, we've got 3 Japanese climbers out of the final 5. Miho Nonaka will be out after Mia, then Futaba Ito, then Shauna Coxsey, Akiyo Noguchi and Janja Garnbret coming out last. Chaeyun Seo just walks past our commentary box. As it stands on the very, very provisional ranking, she stands 7th, but almost certain to move down, you fear.
Mia in that cross-through move did look a little bit smoother than fellow Slovenian Lucka Rakovec. She used exactly the same technique. She read the route together, cross through to the hold that she's on there, the blue one, with the left foot. She looked really clean, sequences-wise, all the way through to here. Very little mistake.
Looking really good here, Mia Krampl. Will she choose to take much of a rest? I was about to say she might well do. Chooses not to rest at all, just keeps going. Literally ignored that second dish as if it was just another handhold, whereas other people have seen it as a bit of an island of safety where they can finally chalk up. Mia pushes on straight through, perhaps got one eye on the clock, perhaps just feels super fresh. Certainly doesn't have that kind of panicked, pumped look that some of the climbers earlier on have had. I'm sure she's beginning to feel it. This is where it really, really ratchets up in difficulty, but Mia Krampl going really, really well here. Climbing superbly. Big move here out to hole 37. You've really got to commit and be accurate, and she can't quite make it work.
Yeah, not quite enough around the back of that. I have to say that was a really impressive performance of lead climbing. So clean on all the sequences, so decisive of where to put the feet. Very little foot swapping where she didn't need to, and it was very, very efficiently to where she fell off. As she went for that hole 37, it was not really any huge signs of fatigue. She just didn't quite hit the sweet spot, just at the back there.
She will score a 36 plus, and by my reckoning is the fastest of the 3 climbers who will be awarded that score. So I believe that will move her up ahead of Chaeyun Seo and Jessie Pilz. We are talking here just in the lead ranking, of course, the combined rankings, something completely different, but I think that'll put her ahead of Jessie and Chaeyun, who got to exactly the same point on the route. Here's Miho Nonaka. There is a massive battle for those 2 Olympic spots amongst a handful of Japanese climbers. Miho Nonaka absolutely in that battle, but being held back slightly by a shoulder injury. The second boulder in the bouldering earlier on was pretty much designed to not be possible for someone who's got an injury like Miho's. You have to put your hand above your head, palm facing outwards. And she couldn't do that, and therefore only ended up with 3 tops in the bouldering. Miho taking a while to get herself set, ever so slightly hesitant before the first few moves, and now she's really underway on the heart of the route. So many permutations here. It's really getting fairly nervous in the arena. I'm looking around at the various coaches of various teams. Some of them might leave the arena in half an hour's time knowing they've got an athlete put forward for Olympic selection. There is so much to play for. The Swiss team look remarkably relaxed. They're about 5 meters away from us. Pity the poor Japanese team who may well have to choose between athletes, and Miho Nonaka may well be one of them. But as I say, that shoulder injury definitely causing her problems. I wouldn't want to say she would have topped Boulder 2 without the shoulder injury, but it certainly meant it was almost impossible.
But what really plays into that as well is she's got a shoulder injury now. How on earth she's going to put the volume of training in ready for the Olympics next year? I can imagine it would take a long time to make that sort of recovery.
I think if this did go according to plan here in Hachioji, and she can beat in the combined final on Tuesday, I might wonder if that's the last we'd see of Miho Nonaka this year, and she might just get these shoulders sorted once and for all, if at all possible. Anyway, needs to.
There's a lot of ifs.
There's an awful lot of ifs, and a very big if on the wall right now, which is, can she get a good enough score?
Didn't look 100% comfortable on that left heel. It was sort of slightly baggy off the back of that little screw-on jib. Slightly awkward with the rope running around the back of the shoe before heading back towards the quick draw. Slight bit of drag there. Just have to double tap in just to release the swing. Again, the rope is still caught around a foot.
Yeah, one more thing to worry about. As it turned out, as soon as she swung out right, it seems to be a problem. Oh, Miho just short on that first dish. Managed to hang on to it only by her fingertips. That little thumb catch just saved her, I'm sure.
First climber really seen struggle on the move. We thought we might see a few more actually doing exactly that, just about catching that first bowl.
Oh, and again a big slap from Miho. And we lose her just on that traverse out to the orange triangle.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a 29 plus there for Miho. She had an epic battle here considering the state of her shoulders. To try really, really hard. Did really well on the speed. Big struggle in the boulder, and look at that. How on earth she managed to reel that back in? I have no idea. She wasn't really holding on to that for most of the time that she was near it.
Yeah, right now, Mike, that puts her in 11th, but with 4 climbers still to go, she could end up 15th on the lead wall. I don't think that would be enough for Miho in the combined to make it through to the final. Smiles to the crowd and waves Miho Nonaka. Have to feel very sorry for her. Of all the times for an injury to come along, now is about the worst. Albeit she's had them for quite a while, but to still be dogged so seriously with an injury, not ideal. And a valiant performance, but I fear that won't be enough for a place in the combined final. Here comes Futaba Ito. What can she do? She's got a massive opportunity here. Hard to believe it was only 2 years ago. She was almost unknown. We saw her competing in the Innsbruck Youth World Championships in September 2017, and she was one of the stars of that championship, but often it's hard to tell which climbers will make the step up from youth climbing, from being the stars of Youth World Championships to being the stars of Senior World Championships. Well, Futaba has made that step in the space of 2 years and absolutely could claim one of those Olympic slots for Team Japan.
Instead, at the very start of this World Championships, I do wonder how much of the Japanese team are going to be affected by the pressure of being a home World Championships, but so far it doesn't seem to have caused them too many issues. So the team set up here for Japan has been really positive. Like you said, Jai, this is a massive opportunity here. She's just got to climb smoothly and cleanly. I think there's no obvious cruxes on this route, nothing that's obviously going to spit her off or cause a route reading issue. She's just got to climb as she knows how to climb.
It's now the 4th year in a row that we've visited Japan with the IFSC. I remember when we came in 2016, a lot of the Japanese climbers really did not seem to go well with home pressure on them, but now we've been here 4 years in a row. I think they've got used to it, and for a climber like Futaba, she's always had a home World Cup every year. It's part of the calendar. Slightly shaky on that move out left.
She put a massive effort in all of a sudden there because she took the cut loose whilst holding the hold on the right hand side on a really bad bit. Used every ounce of her bouldering strength just to get through that sequence. It's a good early move that between hole 10 and 11. It's caused an upset for quite a few athletes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Futaba seems to be one of those climbers that doesn't seem to get phased by the pressure of climbing in front of a home crowd, the pressure of a home event. She's been absolutely a star of Hachioji 2019. No medals as of yet, but just really consistent climbing. Has never really skipped a beat. Another one of the mini cruxes. Route setters have done a great job here. There have been clearly, inevitably, you can't set a route where no move is harder than another. But there haven't been many that have stood out, and that move there is one of the moves that stopped a few climbers. Futaba just breezes through it, almost did it statically.
Slight waver as she went up to the right hand. So a really high right heel, it's an interesting method. Seems to really prefer getting the heels tucked in nice and high. Has to release it now though. Lower screw on jib that she didn't even use at all there in that sequence. He's going to be getting the clip from this right hand black hold instead of the blue.
Yeah, just needs to, sorry Mike, step the feet down.
Yeah, Futaba's in a spot of trouble here because she's managed to climb herself into a bit of a hole. She's in all sorts of problems here because she's not got the quick draw. She's going to struggle to get it from over there. May just be able to reach it from there.
Climbers have to clip all the quick draws in sequence. They can't climb past the last clippable position for safety reasons. So if she just carried on climbing and then fallen off, she wouldn't have been awarded the last few moves. They've got to clip it from the last clippable position before going any further. And that slight fumble around the move onto the head wall could cost Futaba a slightly better score.
It looked really good all the way up to about 2/3 height, and mistakes started to come relatively thick and fast around holes 24, 25 on the traverse back right. Really, that clip. As soon as you know you've missed a clip, you start over gripping massively on all the next holes. Make sure you don't fumble it.
Well, also, if you've missed a clip, there's no point carrying on because the judges will just stop awarding you points as you get beyond the clippable position. So you have to then find a way of coming straight back.
Yeah, I would say from a judge's perspective, the hold that she had was the last possible clipping position. Grit of the teeth there, she goes to it. Quite clever, she pulls the quick draw towards her, making sure she doesn't gain advantage out of the quick draw.
I think that'll be a 29 for Futaba, which right now puts her 12th. She was 4th in the speed, 5th in the bouldering. I think she could well have done enough, despite perhaps not going as well on the lead wall as she might have hoped. Here is Shauna Coxsey, won the bouldering round. Looks super strong, flashed all 4 boulders. Mike, you and I chatted to her immediately afterwards. She was in great spirits, and as well she might. That was a fantastic result. The only climber to flash all 4 boulders.
And the way that she did it as well, is she just made them look easy, to be honest. Alongside her and Janja, they were the 2 standout athletes, and I think Shauna going into this combined lead competition, she just needs a solid performance here. Doesn't need anything special, certainly doesn't need a disaster.
Yeah, she was 14th in speed and then 1st in boulder, so her ranking score coming onto the lead wall is only 14, 14 multiplied by 1. So anything resembling a good score, I think a top half finish here could well be enough for Shauna. May not even need to be that good, maybe a top 12 finish.
She has had a few issues on the lead routes this season, a few sort of slips and a few minor mistakes. She has made semi-final here and finished 17th in the Lead World Championship, so she's on pretty decent form going into this. We would have thought a top half result shouldn't be a problem, assuming she doesn't make any silly mistakes.
It's certainly not an exact science, but I think if Shauna could get us past the 3 dual texture dishes on the head wall and then begin the traverse out left, I'd imagine score-wise that would be about enough. But let's focus on the moment, just to give you some idea score-wise. So I think that might well be enough for Shauna. This is an absolutely massive moment. She's been very open about the fact that she is preparing for the Olympics, for the combined format. We haven't seen her in as many World Cups as we'd like. She's come in and out, got the results she needed to qualify for the next stage of the season. Hasn't done a full World Cup season by any means, and really has timed her run to perfection, judging by what we saw her on the bouldering wall.
She's obviously peaking at this event, but I have to say she didn't stress out about this championships either. She knew there was a second opportunity in Toulouse coming up in just a few months' time. Does that off a really wide, almost a bridge between the far left volume there and the big blue hole still out right. Shauna going for the same method with the hands as Mori, and we know where Mori ended up, right at the top of the wall. Shauna just really cruise mode at the moment. Starting to see coaches pacing backwards and forwards now. The pressure's really coming alive here.
Well, we don't have a horse in the race, so to speak, and we're nervous, so spare a thought for the coaches of climbers who could make it through here.
Let's see what clipping position Shauna goes for. It has to be this hold. If it's not going to be a mistake, it is.
That's nicely done from Shauna. Read that perfectly. That's been the clip that's caused quite a few problems. Shauna climbing really well here. No signs of fatigue on her face. I'm sure the pump is beginning to kick in. But she's climbed this route to perfection so far. She's been smooth, she's been controlled, and she may well have done enough for a place in the combined final. She might well have done enough for a place in the Olympics. Shauna Coxsey now getting established on the head wall up to hold 30. This is a big move. There it is.
Interesting, she went left hand again there. Slight route reading mistake coming out of the rest, unless that's the way that she read it from the ground. All Shauna can do now is just keep on trucking and just try and get the best possible outcome.
That's hold 33 for Shauna. That's going to put her into 7th place in the lead at least. Now crosses through underneath with the right hand. Now she's beginning to look tired, but manages to hold on to the pinch. Bumps out left. Needs to get the pinch right in front of her face. It's such an awkward move that. Goes out with the left hand, and it's that 36 plus move where we've lost a number of climbers. But Shauna, one of, if not the quickest. And almost certainly that is Shauna Coxsey having done enough here in Hachioji. She's had a brilliant day from start to finish.
That was absolutely excellent to see her really battling. Not really seen her dig into a route like that for quite a long time. That's a proper bit of resistance climbing. Gives you a really good idea as to what her fitness is at this championships. Absolutely brilliant championships overall. And will surely be going into the final stage of this combined competition.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, right now she's 14th in the speed, that's set. First in the bouldering, that's set. As it stands, she's 2nd in the lead. The worst she could end up is 4th. Shauna through. What a moment for Japanese climbing, what a moment for Akiyo Noguchi. She comes out onto the lead wall with the possibility to make it through to the combined final on Tuesday in front of her home crowd. Have to say, she looked tired in the bouldering.
She did, she looked really tired in the bouldering. 3 Japanese climbers currently sitting inside the top 8.
Could be 4 in just a second.
Miho's going to just have to climb this as efficiently as possible, maybe just pick up the pace a little bit to what she's normally used to doing.
I think we might see Akiyo climbing quite quickly actually if the fatigue she was exhibiting on the boulder walls anything to go by. She might be well advised to use the typical boulderer on the lead wall tactics and just rattle the moves out as fast as she can. Oh, these rankings are getting so close, and of course everything can change. It's not just a case of score, it's about ranking versus the other people, so it's not enough to say if you can get this score or if you will finish here, because it's all relative to what everyone else does, and it's then multiplied by what you got in other disciplines, so everything's still to play for here. About 10 minutes left by the time Akiyo's finished her attempts and Janja Garnbret's come out and had hers. And not much been decided yet. It's still wide open. Akiyo looking smooth so far, no problems at all as of yet. Safely through that quite tricky move out to the big sloping black hold, negotiated without any problems. And she is setting a pretty reasonable pace here, Akiyo.
Go for the big move up and left without using that heel control on the left-hand volume, so Akiyo just full power through the middle of the wall. Obviously felt really confident in that position. Will that be a wise decision or not?
Well, it's quite an obvious heel hook, so I'm pretty sure she chose not to use it rather than not spotting it.
Oh, absolutely, but did she choose on the fly, or was that something that she observed at the bottom of the route? Is she doing that because she's pumped and she needs to get through as quickly as possible, or is it because she's feeling really fresh? Only she knows.
Akiyo looking, still looking smooth. 10th in the speed with a 9.391, and then 4 tops, albeit requiring 12 attempts in the boulder, left her 4th in boulder. So 10th in speed, 4th in boulder. What can she do on the lead wall, pulling on to hold 28, now 29, heading out towards 30. There it is. That will put her 12th as it stands in the lead. Every move just bumps her higher and higher up the order. Again, pretty sure Miho Nonaka's probably done Akiyo Noguchi's already done enough.
Akiyo Noguchi absolutely stamping her authority all over this route and on the Japanese team.
Now it really is just a case of how many moves Akiyo can do.
This is into the top boulder problem then. Left hand in, right hand to the pinch.
Here's that big move out to 36 coming from hold 36 coming up. And again, we lose Akiyo in the same place. Definitely the quickest of the climbers who got there. She'd only used 3 minutes of time, so that'll move her ahead of Shauna into third on the lead wall.
This is that sequence where she completely missed out the left hand volley through a heel hook to bump that left hand up. Maybe we'll get a chance to see that top section. This is it. So bring the right hand into a pinch, but it's so vertical right in front of your face, it's really not much use. At that point, you have to really flick the hips leftwards to try and get the distance around the corner, because the right foot is not on anything at that point. So it's a real hip flick left to try and get the distance back behind that hold. Unless you're Mori and he gets something else mythical at the top of the wall and just pinch the hell out of that giant block. Just cruise leftwards. Big gathering there at 36 plus.
Here comes Janja Garnbret. 6 minutes maximum to go of this women's combined qualifiers. Right now, we've got 4 Japanese climbers in the top 8. That means that people outside the top 8 will be put forward for Olympic selection from this event. Janja Garnbret chooses not to look much at the route, just wants to get on with things. It's been topped once by Mori. What a statement it would be from Janja Garnbret if she could find a top as well.
The question is, in the bouldering, she didn't look 100% focused. She looked like she was just trying to get through. In the leading, will she try and top the route, or will she concentrate on going through to the next stage with a maximum rest as possible?
I think she's giving this route absolutely everything she's got, would be my guess. Tension is scarcely believable here in Hachioji. I'm looking over at the coaches area. Most people can barely look. In fact, most of them studying their phones, trying to figure out the mathematics, trying to understand what their athletes need. Have they done enough? What would happen if Janja finished here? What would happen if Janja finished there? So tense. All eyes either on the scores or Janja Garnbret in the arena here. We know she can top routes at this level. She needs to read it right.
Yeah, it goes really strong front on there, doesn't use a heel hook at all to go right hand again.
So Janja again up to this powerful bump up with the left hand, where we lost Alannah Yip amongst others.
And you're just using a right heel on a really awkward looking jib there. Careful not to have a slip here. Just choosing the rest at this point in the route. Maybe she's looking a little bit tired.
Akiyo Noguchi, by the way, did move into second place. So we've got a 5-way tie on that 36 plus. Janja goes up with the left hand.
Yeah, just shakes the left hand off as she goes. I think Janja is feeling this a little bit. Not too surprising considering the World Championships she's had. Winner in the lead, winner in the boulder.
Yeah, she's done a quite extraordinary volume of climbing this week. Of course, she'll very likely, almost certainly be back for the combined final on Tuesday, but she will at least get another full day off tomorrow. I'm sure it will be very welcome. Janja looks down at the clock. What a moment this is here in Hachioji. The last climber out. We will know the top 8 when Janja is finished. 3:10 left now for Janja. She pulls across to the first of those dishes. Will she take a bit of a rest? Or will she just keep on motoring? She's climbed quickly up till this stage.
Does just stop for a little bit of a rest with that high left foot, but importantly got the right foot down and almost see it there in a really good leg position. When she reaches up, she's almost straight legged on there, which is the perfect position to be in to rest. Straight arm, straight leg. Left foot's not ideal, but it's better than most people have found. Same sequence as Shauna, all the way out to the left hand undercut. Janja seemingly flowing.
Well, Janja already done enough for the combined final, but how good can it get? Could she come off the lead wall with a 1? And resting where we've seen some of the best climbers in the world fall off. Incredible stuff from Janja Garnbret. That's her on hold 35. You can see 36 and then 37, which is all those climbers, the 5 climbers that went out for 37 ended up with the 36 plus. You can see the hold they were aiming for. There's a little dimple she's got to get into, but first she's got to get that pinch. I think she's just realised, or is she going out with the left hand early? And falls on 36 plus. Just read that wrong, Janja Garnbret. She had to get the pinch right in front of her face, and you can see the disappointment. She knows she got it wrong, but I think when she realises what her score is, she might feel a little happier.
Basic route reading error there for Janja. She went for the high risk method. Do see that from time and time again. We saw it a lot on the boulders, going super high risk. Just tried to double it. Pouncing left hand out and right hand as an undercut. Let's have another look.
Yeah, she kept looking at the pinch as if to say, do I go there, do I not? It never really looked on to go with the left hand. She tried to go with the pinch at the same time.
Yeah, just went for the little double catch. Tried to do it as a coordination move. Absolutely storms off the stage. Surely she's done enough, but yeah, she's not happy unless she tops the route. Janja Garnbret.
Yeah, she's done plenty, Janja Garnbret, and now we just wait for the results to come through. Now looking at, we can see it there, still waiting, Janja Garnbret 35. I guess it depends how she kind of did things in a bit of a strange order, Janja, in terms of those hand movements. The judges have given her 35 if those scores are to be believed, because she basically missed out hold 36. So to be, I guess it actually might be a 35 plus, but either way, could be absolutely crucial though with her if she ties Brooke or if she finishes behind Brooke.
Yeah, this is huge right now, and I think literally everybody, I'm not sure how many out there worldwide, are trying to update the score at the same time as we are, but Janja's score, just waiting to see where that ends up, waiting for the top 8.
The women's combined final competition will be held the day after tomorrow on the 20th.
Well, still we wait because it could be absolutely huge. Massive tension here. Well, that's how it would stand right now. Shauna Coxsey winning the qualification round safely into the final, joined by Akiyo Noguchi, Janja Garnbret, Petra Klingler, Mori, Futaba Ito, Alexandra Miroslav and Miho Nonaka. However, there are 4 Japanese climbers there in the top 8, which means that Shauna Coxsey, Janja Garnbret, Petra Klingler, Alexandra Miroslav and Brooke Raboutou down in 9th place should have secured an invitation to the Olympics, because Japan can only take 2 of those 4, so we're looking for the top 5 non-Japanese climbers. High drama here, because I'm pretty sure Janja Garnbret might get a 35 plus, which would change the scores around. But that should be the outcome. Anouck Jaubert, Julia Chanourdie, Chaeyun Seo, Krampl, Niu, Vita Lukan, Lucka Rakovec, Alannah Yip, Nanako Kura and Evgenia Kazbekova, the rest of the top 20. I'm looking over at the Team USA coaches. They aren't celebrating just yet, even though Brooke Raboutou could have done enough, not for the combined finals, but perhaps for an Olympic slot.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, USA coaches, all 3 of them standing there. They've got a camera right in the face. This is a huge moment. Everybody's just waiting for everything to update. What a fascinating start to this Olympic combined.
Oh, fantastic. Janja Garnbret was given a 35, but surely must be said to have moved off it, although it's for the judges to decide that. Still just waiting for Janja Garnbret's score to come through, I've been told. There is clearly some confusion about what the judges have given her. Slovenian coaches, you will not be surprised to hear, scurrying around with phones and iPads and all the other equipment they use to film attempts. Again, that's what's flashing up. Janja Garnbret. Let's have a look. This was Miho Nonaka earlier on. We've got a few highlights. And I've been told that that is that. Well, Mike, ever so slightly confusing end to this combined competition. A little bit of confusion about what Janja Garnbret's score was. But we believe we sent our first people through for Olympic selection.
Absolutely, what a moment to be here, what a moment to witness this, and what a selection of brilliant performances there, and the competition certainly doesn't end here.
No, it doesn't. We've got the women's combined final on Tuesday. Tomorrow, the men's combined qualification. It's been a landmark day in the history of climbing. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you tomorrow.